Welcome back to Weather Nation. We're starting out with our top weather story, and that's the intense heat that is continuing but shifting toward the northwest and also for the high plains. And we have heat advisories and even excessive heat warnings in place across these areas.
Yeah, it seems like we just can't catch a break from the heat. For some of us, we're looking at relief, but that heat has to go somewhere. So more of the country going to be bracing for near record highs as we head into the weekend.
Exactly. And if you're in New York City, things are a little calmer today in terms of weather, but we're talking about wet weather also moving in for you with some of that heat lingering today. But again, as we talk about the hot weather, again, we want to let you know it's focused around the northwest and also the high plains.
Yeah, the northwest today continuing to deal with scorching heat. We're getting some relief into the coastal areas as the new system works in. So let's get you a closer look at what we're talking about today. Heat alerts are out across the northwest. Once again, those will continue through Saturday with high temperatures hanging out in the 90s, in the 100s. Over the next couple of afternoons, that high heat extends all the way into parts of Montana, stretching from areas like Washington and Oregon. So it is going to be hot, and that heat is widespread. This follows several days of heat, and yesterday was no exception. We set some records across the area. Seattle setting a new high of 90 degrees for the afternoon, beating the old record of 87. Walla Walla, Redmond, and it looks like Glasgow, Montana, tying the records for the afternoons, and those were well into the 100s, just to give you an idea of how hot it's been. Now, this has been thanks to an area of high pressure that has kept things hot since Thursday, but here's a look at what's moving in for the day today. Low pressure pushing into the coast, and that is going to bring in a little bit of a dip in the atmosphere, bringing in some cooler air from the north, and that is going to bring in some relief to our coastal areas today. Still going to be a warm one for most of us. Seattle going to dip back down into the 80s, but just out to the east of that, still dealing with triple-digit heat. A high of 103 in Yakima, Baker City, 102 degrees. Heading out into Billings, Montana, 101 this afternoon. But here's a look at Saturday. That cooler air is starting to push a little bit more into the east. We're dropping back down to the 90s in Baker City, low 70s in Seattle. Still hot over Montana, though, with 90s and 100s in the forecast. For Sunday, we are going to bring in some cooler air for the rest of us. We are going to see that cool air last, though, to push into areas out to the east. So make sure you are still ready for some heat into parts of eastern Montana. For Boise, Idaho, here's a look at how our highs are shaping up. We're going to be in the 100s today, and then there's that cool down. By Sunday, we're in the low 90s, but we're going to stay in the 90s through the rest of the week. Now, as this heat starts to move out, it's going to push into the high plains. So we're getting that relief into the northwest, but high plains looking at near record heat as we move through the weekend. Here's a look at our potential record highs as we move into the day today and into Saturday. You can see a lot of those pink dots on the board. That is indicating some hot weather ahead. Now for today, we'll look at a high of 101 in Billings, Rapid City, 95, Bismarck, 100, and we're going to see that heat continue to build into the region Saturday as well as Sunday, with more and more places looking at highs in the 90s and 100s. For Billings, there's that heat building in through the weekend in the triple digits. Now, another place that's been dealing with the heat, that is the northeast, and we're finally looking at some relief moving into the area. Marcus?
Yeah, exactly. We are talking about some relief moving in. We're talking about things staying fairly quiet today, but along with that relief, we're talking about some wet weather as well. But as we take a look at the temperatures at the moment, a lot of us starting out this morning anywhere from the low 60s toward the low 70s. Boston, New York City, you're starting out right around 73 degrees. This afternoon, we're still talking about some mid 80s and even some low 90s out there with some humidity across parts of the mid-Atlantic, but farther north we're definitely cooler and more comfortable. And then as we take a look at the heat index that takes into account that humidity, again we see we're talking about some intense heat out there, some hot conditions. Keep that in mind. But cooler air is working in as we head into the weekend, as we get a push of cooler air from Canada, and that'll really set the stage for temperatures lowering into the 70s and 80s. Take a look at that Saturday in particular. We're noticing temperatures only in the 70s and 80s, but we're still talking about rain chances. So we'll follow the forecast in the north and east, and we'll also follow what's been happening across the southwest. Places like Arizona still dealing with a lot of heat, but we're still talking about rain being out there as well. Stay tuned.